All right, this time we have a bit of a different video, but this channel is not just for my school stuff, it's for personal projects as well. And I kind of want to go over this video and the next video will be two websites that I did before I started programming, and as a result, are a little bit horrid. But I still want to talk about them. It still is interesting, in my opinion at least, just the fact that basically how a non-programmer makes a website because if I never made one before that, I'd have to, ask somebody else, like, how'd you do it? But for me, that's, my past self is that other self. So first of all, there's some things that you'll probably notice right away. I guess first is this comment. That was basically, since I knew what none of this was basically a comment here for myself just to like remember what that was. And then here's the first ugly thing. Ignoring the weird indenting, which just because of everything else is probably unintentional. Uh, I wasn't using VS Code back then. I was using brackets, which was specifically for websites. The logo, was named brackets, and the logo was literally curly brackets. But yeah, so weird indenting is probably unintentional, is what I'm trying to say. And then, but the first kind of ugly thing is the fact that I'm using an external style sheet, but then also um, have styles in here, which if you wanted to say, if I want just this page to have this style, what I do now is make a separate style sheet for this, and then it just uses the main one across all pages, and then this specific one. Or you would just have a class or an ID. Either way works. Also, another thing that I'm noticing is that you wouldn't normally have the type and media all for your link, or at least that's not what I normally do. I just have the rel style sheet and then what the style sheet is, the href. That's a small thing, but that's weird. And see here, this website is actually still up on NeoCities. I don't really have any reason to take it down. Like here, I'm making a video about it, but I'm never gonna go back to it on there. I'm never gonna update it there because unlike previous old websites that I've made during programming, I have not touched this. I have not made any readability changes or anything like that, just because. Yeah. So here, more weird stuff. I'm using a null style sheet, but I also have inline styles here. I'd say, probably more normal, but still, considering what I have in here, display block, margin left, margin right. The fact that I'm not putting it in the external style sheet is not good, or not normal, I guess. And then here, uh, see, we have this stuff looks relatively normal, but you can see they're all using different classes, like image1, u1, and I'll show why that is in a minute, but since you can see these are all unique, they should probably be IDs. But other than that, this is relatively normal, but I'll show you why it actually isn't. And here, all of this is a section, which isn't bad, I'd say. It's not bad, but uh, since this is the whole entire website is in a section, I'd probably make that a div. I have used sections before and I really like them. Kind of like a article section. Here we have an article. This makes sense, but I'd probably have that be a div, but that's just a semantic thing. Then here, that's some more weird indenting. This shouldn't be indented. Uh, then here, that's looking normal except for these styles. This is looking uh, kind of what I do now. I still have breaks inside paragraphs sometimes, but normally what I do is just have the paragraphs be padded or have a margin and then instead of a break, just have multiple paragraphs or multiple p tags. And then also just the way I have it isn't very good. Um, by looking at it, I didn't have the wraparound, so that's why these are on separate lines. But obviously, Uh, I was on a different screen side of the, this was different. So it looks weird. Um, I'd also have my, this is another thing, this is just a personal thing. I'd have my brakes be on a separate line. Uh, Other than that, not horrid. Here's an inline font. I'm seeing an error here. I'm not sure why. Maybe that tag is. Oh, no, I didn't close it. That's why. No, I did close it. I did close it. If I had to guess, that's probably just depreciated now. I did make this like a long time ago. This is just really interesting. I'm kind of going into this blind. I know what the website looks like visually, but I didn't look into the code beforehand, so this is basically new to me as well, and it's, you know, horrid because, I had made it before I knew what I was doing, but, it's still the fact that I can nitpick all these little things and the big things as well is just, shows how much I've improved. And that this is, it's an old website for a reason. But yeah, here you see again with these P3, P4. Uh, but yeah, that's it. I don't think I really, yeah, I just have the, see it currently under construction. I have like, I'll show it. Also, I've been remaking this website with actual proper code and with my modern sensibilities and just things that I'm more interested in, but kind of the same. Yeah, the only one that I majorly did stuff on was this one, but it's gonna be the same kind of concepts. Uh, yeah, weird inline styles, especially on these. These is just blocks of horrible stuff there. Some lists. The lists actually look pretty good except for the styles, but it's kind of hard to mess up a list on this. See, there's just so much stuff just that does not need to be there. So you'll see why. So body, that's whatever. But then the position absolute, that's why. And that's because, I didn't know what I was doing. I was just trying to make it, you know, I didn't care really about anyone else, I guess. I just wanted this to look good. And I didn't, I was new to it, so I didn't care how. I just wanted the easiest way to make it look good. But because of that, it does not look good because, absolute you'll see it because I made this on my old computer, which is like one standard screen size. My current one is 1920 by 1080, and my previous screen size was like I forget what the resolution is, but it's like the standard one below the resolution I currently have. So as a result, you'll actually see basically the side effects of making literally everything absolute. And also because I made everything absolute, I have to have a class for literally everything on the page. So that's not really good either. So, yeah. So see, literally all of these, there's not even any other styles. It's just absolute and then where I want it. So if I show you here exactly what I mean, see, you can see the background. uh, Everything is basically, aside from the header, everything is looks like it's left justified because of how I made everything absolute on what was my screen, which is smaller. But now because of this, it's just horrid. And some other things, these are just not specifically as a result of this. It's just style stuff. Uh, Busy background with text, not really a good idea at the very least. You don't really want a busy background at all for a website, but if you are going to have one, you at least want like something up where I have up here. This is an image, but you want up here where it has basically text with an outline around it. And then either that or kind of what I do, have this text have a background color. But yeah, I have kind of kept the same. The only things I've really kept is the header, which on my modern website I'll make a video about that, probably an in progress video about that at some point. Maybe actually, yeah, I'll show the progression. So this is 1.0. 2.0 never really got off the ground for a reason that I'll get into in that video. And then I think my next video will probably be in progress of my current iteration of this website. And so back to this, you can see, you know, this is bad. Uh, this isn't too bad. That's just like this explaining what it is. I'd probably want the text font to be bigger because this is another personal thing. I like this. I like this. I don't like how my paragraph explaining it is only 2 lines. It feels like there's not enough there. So yeah, 3 lines is where I think is like probably the minimum I have for wanting to explain these sections. But here, here, here. Also no padding at the bottom. See, um, it's not only hard to read because of the background, it's hard to read because it's literally riding up against the very bottom of the website. You want some, or you wouldn't want padding, you want margin. I mean, padding works too, but you want a margin so it's not actually a part of the text. And then here, these icons on the side, I just like that concept. It's either they're a bit small. That's also something that would be fixed if I did this properly. If I zoom in, no, zoom in doesn't do it anyway. But if I make the screen smaller, see, see it just goes over. Everything's absolute. So just because of how text works in this, it's just the default text. The position is absolute, but text is fine. Um, but everything else, you basically on a smaller screen, it's just go. The website is basically covering it up on small screens instead of working with it to make it, fit, basically is what I'm trying to say. So that's the main page, and then I'll show this one. Another thing that I kind of don't like is that because of how similar the pages are on this, clicking it kind of makes it look like you're going to the same page, but with different stuff, which I don't really like that too much either, but another personal thing. Uh, this is much better in terms of text because you see you have a blank background. It's a like it's black with a texture basically, and it's not like pure black either. Here, this is kind of smart. Normally, what I do is have an explanation of like what a page is first, but having a table of contents with the about is basically, it's just as good if you ask me. The order of what this is about versus table of contents is doesn't matter. Also, here it has a you are here thing. Um, just because of how I'm doing the website in a modern way, I don't have that, but that's because I have sections. So, since aside from that text, these icons on the side are the same across every page, I have it as, or not a section, a component, and I load it in with JavaScript. So just to make it the exact same, I don't have the UR here. But I could probably find some way to do that, but I'm not like, I don't care about it enough to do that. It doesn't really help anything really. And this is kind of, I don't like doing this anymore. It's just the text on the background. I like having, a, a section kind of like, this text would have a background, or rather, all of, let me just highlight it. All of this, ignoring the icons, would be like in one section. So this would all have one background. And then say this is a different section, this would all be on its own background. I think that just looks better instead of having it raw on the background, but there is some kind of charming style to this. And this, for example, I really like how this looks, and I don't do that on my modern website. Or I haven't got to this part yet on my modern website, but I'm not going to do it this way, but I kind of like it this way. I might find a way to try and do it, but just to keep in line with the styles of my current website, I would probably not have that. And this is here another kind of more conceptual issue is that this is overscoping. I'm talking about a specific program for the Nintendo DS, and then over here, and then I kind of like just jump to other uh, visual novels on that are portable, and that just I think that's a good topic. It just doesn't make sense here, so it's kind of like overscoping a little bit. And here, I don't like how this looks. It's another thing where it's just the basically I don't like how very short paragraphs look. I'll in this it depends on like what the screen size is, what the text font is, what the text size is, the padding between it, all that. But just for in this specific scenario, I think this looks bad, but when you get to 3 lines is when it starts looking good. That's that's just another personal thing. See, this is very repetitive, kind of boring to look at. Um, this is also uh, sometimes you kind of just do have to have a wall of text. You want to talk about something for a while, but having it be like this with basically all being one paragraph, that's a no. And then this is the end, and then it kind of has the same issue where there's no margin at the bottom, so it's a little harder to read that last line. But yeah, that's basically it for this. You can see why it's excuse me, you can see why it's not so good anymore, or it never was good, but you can see why I've done much, 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 much better since. But yeah, it's just cool to go back to this and talk about it, reminisce. I do remember struggling because I didn't know what I was doing, but also having a lot of fun doing it. And now it's kind of the same thing, except for when I have to struggle and making something that is much more impressive, I suppose. But yeah, I think that's all I have to say on this. And next time will be the version 2.0 of this, which I mentioned doesn't really get off the ground too much, but there's reasons for that that I'll explain there. So anyway, see you next time.